the offline inspector or trapper version of the application, which runs on iPad. So I have an iPad Pro 2 here, second generation. A little bit of information about the device is that it has the cellular capabilities because GPS is an integral part of this application and helping the inspectors locate themselves. So if you have the Wi-Fi only version of the iPad, that would not be recommended because those iPads do not have GPS. So just a little bit of information about the device. We haven't found that there's any storage issues at all. I believe I have the 64 gigabyte version. We're not looking at taking massive amounts of data offline here. Even a handful of routes isn't a large amount of data. So I do see some hands up. Let's put them down if you don't have any questions. We'll use that feature throughout the. Thank you very much. We'll use that feature throughout the presentation, and then I can pull over to the side and take the question. So let's jump into it. Yesterday we looked at the administrative side of the application, and many of those components relate and drive the offline experience, creating routes, creating surveys, vehicle management and assignment, and of course, user management and route assignment. So now we're going to dive in and see what it looks like on the other side. So the inspector coming to the application in the morning or at the end of the day, and what they do throughout that process in order to go out in the field and perform a paperless trapping day. So on the screen of the iPad, I have an application called GeoCortex Go. We're currently working with the working group, the project working group, on figuring out what is the best way to deliver this app. So there's multiple different ways that this app can be launched. We have more of a generic flavor of the application, which I'm going to be showing today. But depending on the requirements of your county, we may deliver a different style of app that better services your county. So what you see today is very generic. It's called GeoCortex Go. That's our product, and we have the ability to customize that product to, for example, auto launch into applications. We're going to be going through an application selector today, which your county may or may not have depending on your requirements. So I'm going to go ahead and launch into GeoCortex Go. I'm tapping the screen, and this is the generic app entryway. I'm going to show everyone how to sign into the app this way. And let's take a look at that. So we have two options on the generic GeoCortex Go launcher. We have sign in with ArcGIS Online and sign in with ArcGIS Enterprise. So the team at ISD in LA County have set up an ArcGIS Enterprise for this project. So all of the users and all of the content and everything lives on site within their control and their infrastructure. It's not going through the ArcGIS Online Cloud service. So I'm going to tap sign in with ArcGIS Enterprise. And the first time I launch into here, these steps may be best completed by an administrator during setup, during the initial app setup. So if this is the app that your team will be using, this is not something that someone will have to do every day. This is one-time setup. Of course, you can go back and redo the setup if you want, but what we're seeing here is not part of the daily startup process. What I'm doing here is I'm associating this application with LA County's portal. So you'll have to enter in the URL in the field or in the text field there. And that URL will make sure that it's socialized out and documented so everyone knows where to go. I'm going to hit continue here. So this is cal.gis.lacounty.gov/portal. I'm going to hit continue, and now I'm greeted with a login screen. This login screen is the same login screen essentially that we encountered yesterday. This is logging in with that master ArcGIS identity. So just bear with me for a second here. I'm going to pause my screen sharing. I'm going to sign in. So I'm just typing in the username and password, and I just don't want to have that password shared out through a recorded screen share. So bear with me for a minute here. All right. Lots of symbols in this password. I'm getting very good at using these iPad keyboards.
Just doing a check here, Kevin. I think someone had a question.
Okay, I'll get to that right away. Okay, so I'm going to get back into my screen share. Continue. I'm going to take a look at that question. Did we have a question, Chris? David?
Yes, well, I had just joined. I was taking a call from the public, and so I joined a few minutes late, and I wasn't seeing anything on screen. I just had the audio, but something just popped up.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I just wasn't sure whether or not it was supposed to be like that.
Oh, very well. I was typing in some passwords and it shows on the screen. So just so it's not recorded, but I'll jump back into the demo now.
Okay, so I should be seeing kind of a blue screen that has development apps and production apps on it.
Yes, this is GeoCortex Go. We'll make sure that the recording, so we passed the recording out to the working group yesterday for dissemination within the wider group. This is also being recorded, and you'll be able to just see like the intro steps that I went through.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so after I've signed in, I simply put in my credentials and I hit sign in. This is the next page we're greeted with. So I'm CalTrap Tester B. We're signed into the ArcGIS Enterprise. We see a few different apps here. Now in production, we likely would only see the production app. And this is the generic app, so it does have the ability to show multiple different apps. This is a great way, for example, if you're a CDFA personnel and you need to see multiple different trapping apps for different counties, this would be a great application experience for you. You'd see Los Angeles trapping app, you might see San Diego trapping app, and you might see all 50 plus county trapping apps in here. And it allows you, instead of having 50 app tiles on your home screen, you can come in here and select the one you want. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on Los Angeles trapping app in the production app section. Okay. I'm going to give the app a minute to initialize here. And what we're seeing, so the map is going to look a little bit different, and that's because this is running on an iOS device using a native iOS API created by Esri. And the other app we used yesterday was based on the HTML5 viewer. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. And just waiting for those services to come up. There we go. So we've awoken the services. They're now ready to be used. This application, it doesn't really matter where you're zoomed into when it starts up. The map view is very similar to what we looked at yesterday. The symbologies of what you see is essentially identical. The app right now is not a highly, I mean, you can click on things and you can look around, but the app is not ready for work. The real magic of this application happens when you start your workday. So right now the device is online and it's connected. And when I pan the map around, it's actually pulling those services down from the online service storage facility. So the special thing about this is that this application is going to look at what route I'm assigned and what route I'm working on, and it's going to go and pull all that data down to the local device. Now on the left-hand side of the application, I have my different functions that I can perform. This is not all of the functions of the application. A lot of the functionality is hidden within submenus and different clicks, and I'm going to show you all how to get there. So I'm an inspector and I've arrived at the shop, and I want to get my day started. So traditionally they might go and get their book, the binder, and put that in their truck. And stock their truck with the different types of traps and lures and sample stuff they need. What they'll do here is they'll hit the Manage Work button. So I do have a number of tools on the side. I'm just going to show you a demonstration of what happens when I click on, for example, Manage Sites. So the tool opens, but it says you must start work before managing sites. So the app right now kind of has a soft lock on it. We're not letting users do any actions unless they're started work. So no editing actions, no trap servicing actions. You must start work. And that's very important because it takes the device offline. So step one, I'm going to hit Manage Work button on the side, the second button down from the top left. I see on my screen anyway, it seems like the screen share is a little bit slow and a little bit laggy. So what I'm going to do is make sure that at each step I can see what's going on the screen share and I don't skip over anything for anyone. So on the Start Work tool, we have a route selector. So this application supports an inspector being assigned to multiple routes. I know that most cases the inspector will be assigned to one route. I know that in LA County anyways, that seems how they do it. But there could be cases where you have rovers or you have other individuals who might want to be on multiple different routes so they can go work on different things and help fill in the gap if there's a need. So in the route selector, when I click, I'm shown a list of all of my assigned routes. In this case, this inspector has 2 routes assigned to them. I'm going to go ahead and just click 1943 and the iOS way. So it kind of pops up that combo box from the bottom of the screen. It's not like when we were using Chrome yesterday that we had drop-down menus. I'm able to then select a vehicle. I can have multiple vehicles assigned to me and I can pick which one I'm working in, and then I can make edits to the odometer, to the starting odometer. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward, the process to start work. So what happens now is I'm going to hit Start Work, and the app is going to go into a special state here. So right now, the app is going into a starting work state. So we prompt the user that this may take some time. Do not close the app. So depending on the route and depending on how much data needs to come offline, for the technical savvy in the room, it could be around 60 to 70 megabytes of content is being pulled down from the server, but it's going to hold all the data on the device for the day, so you can go and work underground if you wanted. We're not relying on a server connection for this app to be successful. So what I've gone and done now is I have successfully downloaded the data for my route. I can now start work. I'm now ready to start work. We've created a work log saying the inspector has started work. Okay, the tool is going to dismiss itself and we're zoomed in on the map. I'm going to just quickly zoom out and show everyone what the application looks like when it's offline. So when we're online, we can see all of the data for the whole county. But when we're offline, we've clipped the boundary of the route so we can work within that area. Now, I know that you might be thinking, look at this map. How do I know where I need to go and work? So if you zoom in a little bit, you're able to see the traps. Now, through UAT feedback, we may change some of the visibilities of these layers to be turned on at a higher level, or maybe we need to zoom in to see more. This is all configurable stuff. So don't get too, hung up on the fact that, oh, I can't see traps at the full zoomed out level. We absolutely can change and control these types of things. Here we can see that I'm working on a route that's based off the Quint subgrid system, and the map has automatically removed the other subgrid systems because I'm not interested in those for the day. I'm using Quints today. We have some green triangles here, which indicate that we have some Jackson traps placed in these different Quints. My other tools along the side of the application, we can now launch those. So Trapper Dashboard is a tool that is supposed to be the kind of the information hub for listing out grids, listing out traps needing service, checking your densities, making sure that because we can use the map as a visual aid to check densities, but the application can also do that for us and just say grid LR 544 needs traps of these pest types in order for that density requirement to be satisfied. So I'm going to launch the Trapper Dashboard. Now, this tool takes a little bit of time to process initially. So like going offline, we're doing a pretty complex operation. Once we're offline, we can load the dashboard. And essentially what the dashboard is doing right now is it's going through every single grid, every subgrid that we have, and it's calculating where are the current traps and where do we need traps. So this is not, every time you open the dashboard, it does not take this long to load. This would be a great tool. I mean, I've seen it take as long as like a minute and a half. And if that's something that the trapper does immediately during their day, they won't have to, it won't slow them down. They can just do or perform all the calculations at the outset of the day. So here, my Trapper Dashboard has loaded, and I don't have too many traps placed on this route. So this might be a case where an individual is starting to put some traps down on the route. They've done a little bit already. But what's important here is that we can see some of the different informations at different levels. So I think everyone here is familiar with the concept of book. My understanding of book, and I hope it's right at this point in time, is that a book is the amount of work that one inspector is roughly expected to do within a day. So books are simply a way to cut up a route into multiple different work days. So on this screen is kind of the route overview page, and like we want this to be an app where you essentially have all those binders that you keep in your shop right in the palm of your hand. So, those binders, they can get lost, they can get damaged. Lots of things can happen to those physical books. With the application, we want the trapper to think about this as a bookshelf. So open up the Trapper Dashboard, go to your bookshelf, pick which book you want to work on. It's that simple. So at any time, you can kind of go between books, you can survey and assess what you need to do. What I'm going to do is, so I can see right now in all of my books, I have 4 traps that need service. In book 1, we have further breakdowns of the different, of kind of each book and what needs to be done. So on a full route, when the route is populated and rich, these numbers will be a lot larger. I'm going to go ahead and open book 1. So I click on the book here and you can see the map highlights which book area it is. So I'm kind of like using this tool a little bit to get oriented, figure out what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and open the book. So let's do book 4. I like the shape of this one here. I'm going to go ahead and open the book. And what we see is that book 4, we have 1 trap needing service, but we now have information about the grids. So we can see that some of our grids need traps. So we can use this tool and really quickly identify, okay, where do we need to focus our attention? Traps needing service and also density requirements. So at this point, what I can do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up a grid where there's a trap needing service. So here's a trap needing service. You can see the orange triangle in the eastern quint, and I'm going to open up this grid. And what we get here is we get a listing of the sites where there's traps needing service. So I can click on this site and hit open site, and it's going to zoom right in to that site and show me the trap with the ID that needs service. So we have used this hierarchy of drill down where we've gone from route, we've gone to book, we've gone to grid, and now we've gone to sites of interest. So a site of interest is a site where I need to go do something. And now the application is telling me some information about the site. So this trapping site does not have a dog. I can view some site details if I want. Now this is a configurable section where we can put some additional details. We have them hidden by default. When I went out with the inspector in LA, it was amazing how confident he was in knowing where the traps were almost without having to look at a map. So we feel like there's the right amount of details kind of abstracted away in here that you could have someone who's brand new going out, or you could have a seasoned vet going out to service a route. I have a hand up from David. David, go ahead.
Looking at the screen, I see, whoops, let me clear that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sites. How do I know which one of those is the one that I'm focusing on?
Okay, so it's centered, but also it's really hard to see. The iPad in my hand has much better contrast. But there's an orange, when you click on the trap here, you get a circle icon. But on the screen itself, I can actually see that very easily without, it doesn't look that good on a screen share. Like this background here is very white. It's actually quite brown on my screen.
So there's something that's shading the parcel that's the current trap site that I'm interested in?
Not shading it, but we have a circle there. Again, let's if this is something that we need to tweak or change, we can definitely do that.
You're talking about the blue circle that's around the host?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you just did that just now on your own, but that would be popped up automatically.
I did, but the fact is, when you start clicking on things, you see the map changing state. So you can just click on a trap and it'll circle it. We also center on the trapping site.
Okay. Well, when you have two neighboring sites that are documented sites, that doesn't help much.
Okay. Well,
centering doesn't.
Yeah, we'll definitely note that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it were bordered differently or shaded differently or something, so it identifies the specific active site, that would be helpful.
Okay, perfect. I'll have Preet. Take a note there. All right, continuing on. So what we have here is we've now selected the trap, and we can perform different actions on it from the menu below. So this is one way to come in and perform services on a trap. Now, there are a number of different services that can happen, and a lot of them happen at a trap and you leave the trap deployed. Some of the services happen when you actually relocate it. So you remove the trap and you go and you place it somewhere else within that quint. So I would just like to show the service a trap option. So services required for this trap are inspection, replacement, and relocation. So this one may not be the best example because we would just relocate this trap. But I can go ahead and click the service button. Now, what I see here is a warning. So this is built into the application. And because I'm currently sitting in Victoria, BC, I am not within 500 feet of the host to service a trap. So what this part of the application does is it's just doing a check to make sure that the user holding the device is close to where the service is being done. It does not prevent you from performing the service, but what it does is it just makes a note. It makes a special note that says when the service was performed, the user was outside of the, we call it a geofence. So we can go ahead and click OK on that. There might be conditions where the GPS, for example, is acting up, or they're in the shadow of a large building or something like that. So we don't want to prevent any actions from happening. I can go ahead and click OK. It's going to bypass that warning. And now I have a breakdown of the trap. I can see the trap type. I can see all of its last service dates. And then I have some different actions that I can perform on the trap. So each trap has different, or each pest type will have different types of actions that you can perform. Bonnie, do you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question on what you showed on the geofencing and acknowledged it. Does CalTrap capture that as an auditable event?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, there in the background there is a like basically a validation event log that will just say that the trapper performed these actions but bypassed the geofence.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Kevin.
So what we can do is we can click on the different actions that we do at a trap. Inspected is special. So I'm going to inspect the trap, and what I see is some more options appear below. I can do no samples, I can document samples, or I can skip samples. So if I was to document the samples, I see some more interface. What we do is we look at the type of trap that you have down, and when we pick the sample type, we automatically say that, okay, if it's an MF trap, we're going to automatically pick the medfly sample type. You can put in the number of samples and then add samples. So you can go in here, and I just clicked on the sample type, and I can go and I can pick a different type. I can say, well, we've got a bunch of these guys in here, which would be quite weird, I know. So I just went through, changed the sample type, added number of samples, and I hit add samples. And now we see we have a little summary of how many samples we've documented. Okay. I can remove samples. I can add new samples and remove them if I made a mistake. So it's quite flexible in that way. I can also hit the baited checkbox and the insert. So I saw that our document samples went to no samples. That's a little glitch. Matt, if you can take a note about that. Appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is just go back in here, and I'm going to save my inspection. So once I save the inspection, we just get a service trap message that says the trap was successfully serviced. And now we can see in the summary page, it actually updated. So we only need replacement and relocation, and we see that the last inspected date is updated to today's date. So this application, it's really dynamic in terms of the validation and how things are updated on the fly. really, you could perform all those actions at once if you wanted. I see another question. I see a hand up from David.
Can you back up the screen again to the servicing actions?
Sure.
So does this scroll down further? Are there more actions that I'm just not seeing?
No, these are the only actions that you can perform on this trap. On the previous screen, though, you can do a new trap. You can remove it. You can relocate it, or you can rotate it.
No, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
So I missed it on when you had shown this screen. Okay.
So yeah, and I suppose like a lot of this is nomenclature and also user training, just where to find the different options. So some of these other things didn't really fit very well inside the service option. For example, relocating, it made the most sense to put that on a separate on kind of a separate area, and I'll go through some of these options right away. I see a hand from Bonnie.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. Sorry, back to the auditable events. In the sample scenario, would a non-zero sample number trigger any type of event that a supervisor could see?
Well, a non-zero sample would not trigger an event. You're saying like do supervisors want to know when there's a documented sample, or do supervisors want to know when there's no documented sample?
When there's a documented sample.
We don't currently have anything like that built into the application. It would be absolutely possible to do a, all the data we have all the data, so it's easy to do notifications and things like that. ArcGIS, for example, has geo event server that we could potentially leverage for notification. So when the trapper syncs the device, there could be notifications that say, on this route there were these many types of things of interest that happened today, for example. So
excellent. Yeah.
We should definitely take that one into a sidebar. I think that's a really cool idea, Bonnie.
Okay, we will huddle internally as well on that. Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Awesome. You're welcome. All right, so let's do on this trap. Let's do a relocate service, because that is a very common type of service, and it's more complicated than the others because a lot of the other ones, you're just changing the state of the trap that you're at and you're recording. I also see a question. So are these timestamped as well? So everything in the application where there's a date, you may not see it because we're limited by screen real estate. Everything in the database has timestamps. So it's up to the second accuracy. And I think even the app does display timestamps in certain views where there's enough space. So yeah, it's very we have very accurate timekeeping in the application. We know exactly what has happened when. So when I relocate this trap, getting back to relocation, we have a thing called the trap shelf, and I want everyone to visualize the trap shelf as being like a shelf in the back of the truck. So when we perform a relocation, we're essentially, if it's a McPhail trap, we might be putting it in the back of the truck, washing it out and getting it prepared for the relocation. And if it's a Jackson trap, I think those just get turfed because they're at the end of their life. But anyways, we need a way to, this trap is not deployed, but it's kind of in a special state. So I'm going to hit relocate. And again, I'm prompted with this warning, and field testing shows that this will not happen if you're not in Victoria, BC. I can add a reason for relocation. I can leave it blank. I think relocations that happen as part of normal servicing can just be left blank. So I'm going to hit save. And what our prompt tells us here is that for the relocate trap operation, we've successfully shelved the trap for relocation. So we've put that trap in the back of the truck. Now what we can do is we can go and we can find where we want to relocate that trap to. So I can look at what traps I have shelved. If I click on my trap shelf at the bottom left-hand side of the application, I can see that I have LS544 East Medfly. Tells you it's a Jackson trap type, and the pest is MF. I mean, for those that know this stuff, that's should be very apparent. But anyways, we supply those details. So what we can do is, this is really cool. I can just go to another site in that East Quint, and let me show you what happens when I click on a site just with my finger. So at any point of the application, I can click on a trapping site, and what happens is here, I'm going to pick this interesting one over here. Nice Lakeview property. I'm going to hit on, click on this with my finger. And what we do is we give a full identify of all the information that's pertinent to that site, and we order it. So what we do is, first of all, we display the trapping site. Second of all, we display the traps. There are currently no traps at the site. And then we display all the hosts. I know this says tree. We may want to change that nomenclature to hosts along the side. But from here, I can go ahead and I can actually redeploy that MF trap. So I'm just going to zoom in with my fingers here on the trapping site a little bit. And I don't even need to really click on an individual tree. If I know that I'm going to go to the peach tree, I can just click on from the left results bar. I'm going to click on the bottom peach tree, and the map's going to put a pin on that and center there. And then I can see some information about the tree. Some of the information here may not really be of interest to the inspector. There's a lot of IDs. Because this application is offline, we have to use very complex IDs, but it's integral to the application that we have reliable IDs. We also have a bar of actions that we can do. We have a deploy trap action, because when I get to a host, that's typically what I want to do. I want to deploy a trap. So I'm going to click on deploy trap, and it says, again, I'm going to dismiss the service warning. And when I click on the pest type that I want to deploy a trap for, I get a list of pests at the bottom. These are all of the different pests that are currently part of my route. I've got medfly, melonfly, Mexican fly, and oriental. So I'm going to pick that medfly pest type. What I see from the side is I see some different information that helps me, some different information that helps with my trapping activities. So it just shows expanded details, pest type, trap, what's the density, what's the lure type. So this is all metadata coming from the database, and what are the inspection frequencies, replacement frequency, and relocation frequency of that pest. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. Now the application is smart enough to know that we have a shelved trap. So you've been working in this Quint, you've put some traps on your shelf. We need to redeploy that trap before, instead of placing a new trap per se. So we're essentially relocating the traps, keeping the same ID, but for all intents and purposes, it's a brand new trap. It could be a brand new trap body. I'm going to click OK, and I can select which trap that's in my shelf that I want to place. We're going to perform some validation on that, and it says you need to be within 50 feet of the trap's original location in order to relocate it. I think that this is actually not correct. We just need to change the, we just need to make sure we're on the other side of that. We're checking right now if we're inside. I think we need to check if we're outside. Again, this is a configuration point that can change for each of the different counties. So what are your configured distances? Matt, just take a note of this, that we'll want to check this deploy trap thing, but I can also just override this warning as well. So this will put a validation warning in the table. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And what we've done is we've successfully deployed the trap. I have a little error pop up here. I'm just going to dismiss that. We did get the trap down. If I click on the site here, I can see again this trapping site details, the trap that we've placed, and all of the different trees again. So you're able to, just by clicking on a site at any time, do a drill down, identify. So I do have a few questions here. So what happens when you choose a site less than 500 feet from a prior site? Right, so what we saw there was a 50-foot validation error, but yeah, we can override the, the trapper always has the ability to override the validation, because we don't want the application to physically prevent people from doing their jobs. If there could really be some certain situations where things need to be overridden, and that can be up to the supervisor to deal with and kind of keep their eye on it that way. I see a question from Dan as well. Can you place the new trap first, then pick up the old one? So right now the application would not allow you to do that. So that could be one for the working group. So right now you've got to remove it, shelve it, and then place it. We've got, okay, Qua. It looks like Qua, okay, was answering, and it looks like there's a few answering from Qua. Do we have a hand up? David, is your hand up?
Yeah. Well, Dan asked one of the questions that I had about the order in a relocation, because it's supposed to operate with efficient routing order, and a lot of times when you're doing a relocation, it'd be more efficient in your flow to deploy the new site in a relocation before you pick up the old. Well, actually, there's several reasons why that's more efficient, but so I don't know whether that's a surmountable issue in the system or not. But the other thing is, going back to that pop-up that said within 50 feet.
Yeah, that I called out as a configuration parameter change that we need to do. I know that that's not correct.
No, I know. I heard you say that. You know, but you were talking about the distance. It's a without issue when you're talking about relocation. It's a minimum distance away. So your relocation site's supposed to be at least 500 feet away from the prior site, not within.
Yeah, no, we just have it. We have the configuration doing the inverse, so we'll just flip that over.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, we would not want LA to and the working group to experience that one. Definitely not. All right. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to find. Okay, here's another trap on the map. Again, it's quite a bit easier for me to see. It's on this site here. And by clicking on the site, I can see the trap. So before I showed the servicing options when you go through the trapper dashboard, in this way, what we can do is we can go to the trap through this identify click menu. So here we see the second option shows the trap type is Jackson, trap status is good. So I'm going to click there, and we see the same type of information, but it looks a little bit different. Now here at the top, we're going to see some information. Is the inspection due? Is the replacement due? Is the relocation due? At the bottom, we can actually see those timestamps. Now this trap was deployed August 6th at 11:04 a.m. because all of the dates show that as the last activity. So I can service this trap. So that's the same thing. The exact same tool that we had before. It's just a different way in. Okay. I can unable to service. So I was not able to service this trap. So I'm going to click that option this time on this trap. So again, we need to be within 500 feet. And in this tool, so unable to service, I can select a reason. These are all configurable. So we can add as many of these items that's pertinent to your county's trapping activities as possible. I can see that the gate was locked, and I'm going to hit save. So notice that nothing here is actually due for service yet. So nothing has been lapsed on this trap. It was only placed last week, but I can still go to it and I can perform action. So I can get out ahead of the work. I don't have to wait for everything to lapse and to go into a needing state or needing service state. So here, unable to service reasons, gate locked. I'm going to hit save, and this successfully marked the trap as being unable to service. So what happens here? So I'm just going to click off. Is now you see a red triangle. A red triangle is different from an orange triangle. A red triangle means that we tried to do something here, but we couldn't. So a red is a special indication on the map, and it's differentiated from something requiring service. So there's 3 states: green, orange, and red right now. So let's see what else can I show here? Okay, so what I can do on this trap. So I'm going to click on the site, and I see all the information along the side, and I'm going to click on the trap, and I'm going to perform just a new trap action. So that's the 3rd circular icon in. Okay, this again is our geofence. And what I can do here is put down why I needed to replace this trap. So turns out fell out of the tree and broke. And I can just do this. New trap successfully placed. Now what we have in the background is we have a very comprehensive log of all the actions that have been performed to every trap. So every single thing that you do to a trap that an inspector does is recorded. And you know, the flat file report is one way to pull all that information out. It's all also stored within the database. Let me see here. Okay, so this is a melon fly trap. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go to this trapping site. It's in the same quint as that melon fly, and I'm going to go to this Mexican guava tree, and I'm going to try to place another ML trap. Okay. I've picked my ML pest type. I'm going to hit save, and we see an alert. So this alert is just telling us that the subgrid's density requirement for ML traps is already met. So the application will detect what the parameters of the trapping survey are, and then it works to reflect that within the application. So we can't put a trap. We can't put a trap down here. If the melon fly had 2 traps per subgrid, then we would be able to. Let's see. This is an interesting trapping site. I'm going to put a trap down on this Mexican guava. I'm going to put down. I don't think we have a med fly here yet. Oh, I do. So it was just telling me that I already have a Mediterranean fly down here. Oriental. I don't think there's an Oriental in here. Okay, I just deployed an Oriental fruit fly Jackson trap. What I'll do is let's pretend that this trap was already out in the field for a week now, and what I want to do is open up the servicing options for this trap, and I want to rotate it. So when we're going to rotate a trap, and what I keep dismissing there is just that 500-foot error. I mean, that 500-foot validation rule. So I keep dismissing that. The application is not going to let you slide past that one without clicking OK. And what I can do is rotating a trap is just moving the trap to a different tree on the site. This application, when we rotate the trap, is going to show us what other hosts there are on the property that are in the application that we can put this trap onto. So if the host that you want to rotate to is not in the app, we can go and add that. But I'm just going to rotate this trap to the white sapote. And you can see that that trap jumped from, I think it was the topmost tree on the property, now to this one. So from the Mexican guava down to the tree at the south. Yesterday, we discussed the ability for inspectors to create trapping sites and hosts. So in this tool here, I can go click on Manage Hosts. This is the third tool down on the left-hand side. So adding trees and modifying trees or hosts is an important part of this application. Here, I clicked on the Add Host button, and now I get the opportunity to add the new host location. I can just click Add Host, click the location on the parcel of that host. I can pick the category, so these are the same categories that we were looking at yesterday. The tool looks a little bit differently because it's running in iOS, but it's the same. It's the same behavior. I can save that host, and the new host has been added here. Do I? No, I don't. I don't think I see any. Okay, no, there is no hands up. All right, let's go down one tool, or let's go down to Manage Sites. So I'm going to click Manage Sites tool. And again, through here, I won't go through all of these tools. They are part of the recording yesterday. But if I want to create a single site, I can find the trapping parcel or the parcel that I want to use. And in this case, it's this one here. And by default, we try to use the address as the site name. We try to populate it in here. It didn't look like it might not have an address in the database. So what I'd want to do is just type in the address. I can pick my site type. If permission was given or denied. Enter in contact details. I can mark if it has a dog. So here's the new trapping site, and then I can go ahead and I can add hosts to this trapping site. Banana, why not? So now we have a trappable site here with a banana tree on it. All right, so another tool that I'd like to focus your attention on is the Host Advisor tool. So the Host Advisor tool is a tool that is very data driven. So it looks at a pest and then it finds trees through database relationships that would be a suitable host to deploy the trap on. So I'm going to pan down here. I'm going to work off Bel Air Road here, Bel Air Drive, and let's use the Host Advisor here. So I don't want to use the current location because that is BC, but this is again a tool that would use the GPS location. Pest type, let's do Medfly. I think there's good data for that, and choose a new location. So I'm right here. I just put a little yellow dot on my location. I think you know, we might want to look at changing that to a red dot or something like that. Again, it's hard to see on the screen, but I'm going to click the Find Hosts button. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to look for preferable hosts in the area. Let me just see. We don't have a very rich database set for these preferred hosts, so it's kind of trial and error. We can do a number of things here. We can extend the search radius, but just having good data here is the most important. So having all the different trees, and we rank the trees. So when the trees are put in a database, we say, okay, for Mediterranean fruit fly, this peach tree is a rank 1. Maybe a spruce is a rank 4, something like that. And then what it's going to do is going to look at the distance, and then it's going to show you the trees that make the most sense. Matt, which pest type has a good, it'd be great to demo this tool.
Yeah, so I know that GM pest types work well with the shade tree.
Oh, okay.
But it looks like we don't have any GM. The ones that we have available, I'm not aware of any off the top of my head, but I can take a look at the database if you'd like.
Oh, you know, it's fine. So, yeah, this route does not have any gypsy moth on it, and as Matt said, the gypsy moth is the one that we were mostly testing this tool with. So, yeah, what it does is it just looks in the database and tries to find you the best tree. So the Host Advisor, very data-driven tool, supposed to improve the quality of trapping activities. David.
So, well, if you're trying to do a fruit fly, just using a peach or an apricot for high-ranking hosts. But the question I had is, it's got the host ranked. Is it considering when those hosts trapping season is, or do you simply, you as a trapper, have to simply narrow the search by saying, you know, identifying what you're looking for? You know, like, can you say, show me peaches, you know, or show me tangerines in the area?
Right. No, I don't think you could do that right now. You know, like, so, okay, first of all, we don't on the hosts currently respect trapping season or take into account what the season of the tree is.
That would actually be difficult to do because that can vary, you know, by area or even within an area just by, you know, current environmental conditions. But that would be why it would be important to be able to have the trapper, you know, who would know that information, be able to narrow the search by selecting, you know, what hosts, because they know what the higher ranking hosts are and what's on at that given type of season. So they could say, well, right now, peaches are done. You know, what's the highest ranking host that's available this time of year? Enter that, and then it will search for that. Is a big thing. Because otherwise it will just rank it by, or it will just identify things by rank, whether they're trappable that time of year or not.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you know, the feedback this is really good feedback. So there's two things. First of all, having a mechanism in the database to support a trapping season on that host advisor tool. And then also it sounds like, David, one thing we can put down for our notes is like a host finder tool. So help me find the nearest host, right?
Yeah.
So I could search within this grid or this subgrid, or maybe even within, you know, hey, find me this host within 500 feet.
Yeah, I wouldn't even bother trying to do something where it automatically is assessing season, because I don't think that will ever be accurate, you know, across the board. So it's better, you know, I know in my area I have some bar charts that show the, you know, it has hosts on the y-axis and it has months on the x-axis, so that you can just look at the bars and say, okay, this is the shaded, you know, the shaded portion of the bar is the time frame within which that particular host is trappable. People can kind of look at that, you know, the trappers themselves can look at that and say, well, towards the ends of those, they're just coming on or they're just, you know, petering out, and get a sense for in their area, you know, when that host is trappable. And then they can type that in and say, yeah, let me look for this. And that way it can be customized, you know, for whatever area. You don't have to worry about, you know, trying to have a generalized trapping time frame that's like cafeteria food. It, you know, doesn't quite work for anyone.
Definitely. Yeah, and it's important to note that like the state of this application right now is like this is the first rollout that you guys will be getting, right? Like once this is through UAT, basically after that, the sky's the limit of what type of functionalities, you know, what people can dream up and what feedback people give that can make this app better, right? You know, the goal here is that this is going to be, you know, a terrific app that makes people's lives easier, makes the trapping data better, makes it shareable. So the trapping data can, you know, be used in maybe different ways than it wasn't used before. So these are great things. And you know, I really look forward to hearing what types of tools may benefit, you know, County A or County B, and providing the best experience possible to each county.
Thanks.
Now, so with the demo, I did mention yesterday that the Trapper application, you know, it's focused to do a number of things well. So placing traps, servicing traps, finding your location, ensuring that the trap densities are met, and things of that nature. The admin app has quite a few more tools, as we saw. I mean, really, when we look at this, there are 6 tools along the side, and you know, for example, Trap Shelf, it doesn't really do that much. So a lot of the functionality is within servicing traps and deploying traps. I don't have too much more to demo, but I do have a very important piece to demo now that I'd like to show everyone. That's manage work. So when we go back into our manage work tool, so I've gone out and I've performed all the operations and actions that I need to for the day. At the end of the day, just as you sign out of your shift, you go to manage work, and the tool is now in a stop work state, or the tool is now ready to guide you through ending your workday. And in the process of that, what's going to happen is the work log is going to be created. The daily work log will now be accessible, and it pushes all that offline data back online into the CalTrap environment. So right now, any activity that I've done is local to me. the most that someone will lose, for example, if an iPad is stolen or if an iPad is accidentally damaged, the most amount of work that the most amount of record someone will lose is 1 day's worth of work. And that is in the worst case scenario. Once it gets to the database, it's there, it's backed up, it's there forever, and it's very secure. So I'm going to go through the stop work process. And it's important to note that when you start work and when you stop work, you need internet connection. Throughout the day, trappers and inspectors do not need to rely on internet connection at all. So I can go ahead and enter in what my ending odometer was. So starting odometer, ending in 35, I'll end in 79. I can add some comments here. So okay, I have an accuracy statement. So what's next is a statement that is just saying, I certify the accuracy of the information I've provided and acknowledge that the information I've provided may be subject to verification. I'm going to hit that little toggle switch, and now the stop work option underneath it becomes enabled. I can hit stop work, and just as we observed at the beginning of day, where we pulled all the changes down from the database, now what we're doing is pushing them back up into the database. So these operations can take some time. Depending on how many changes have been made, it shouldn't really take that long. I mean, we're not dealing with large amounts of data. We're dealing with, well, large amounts of small pieces of data here. So what's happened is my work log was successfully completed. I'm now, I can now put everything away, make sure the iPad's back on the charger if that's part of the process for the evening. But the work log is completed. All the activities, all the traps and everything have been synced back to the cloud. So now we're back online. If I zoom out on the map, I can see the entire county again. And, if I zoom in, oh, I just lost my place. Here we go. So if I zoom in here, here's that trap. It's now red. That trap is the one that, I marked as unable to service. The supervisor would be able to see all this information now from their portal. I see a question, a raised hand from Bonnie.
Yes, Kevin, this is about stopping work. Are there any constraints in CalTrap that would prevent a trapper from stopping work twice or multiple times in the same day? And the easiest scenario would be a truck breaking down in the field.
Yep.
And needing to capture the ending odometer and move to another vehicle.
Yep.
So then could they stop work twice that day?
Yeah, so you can absolutely start and stop work as many times as you want within a day. In the case, because what we need is when you report, so all of our reporting is essentially centered off of work logs and trapping activities and traps. So when you stop work, you're putting a nice buttoned up work log back into the database. You would need internet connectivity to stop work. That's one constraint around stopping work. Now, we don't see, and we know that there's really good coverage, cell coverage within the state of California. I've used the app on LTE just fine. We go offline because we want to completely remove the dependency for a good signal. It's just one more hiccup that can cause problems in a day, as if the app loses connectivity. So what we did is we're now going offline to mitigate that. So yeah, you could switch trucks. Absolutely, you could end your workday as long as you have either a Wi-Fi or an LTE connection.
Okay, thanks. And one other vehicle assignment question, which is
Yep.
you mentioned earlier, actually in the beginning. A trapper can be assigned to multiple vehicles, correct?
Yeah.
So for counties that have more dynamic vehicle assignments, for example, San Luis Obispo, they assign their trappers a new vehicle every day.
Okay.
Instead of, the more rural counties that assign a trapper to a truck for the whole season. So in this dynamic vehicle assignment scenario, can all trappers be assigned to all vehicles and then just start their day and select the vehicle that they're using?
Yeah, so Bonnie, I guess one thing that we talked about lots was how when we get this application out to all the different counties is that there are going to be some different, practices at the different counties, and that's, this is like an operational difference. All of our tools are built with workflow, so a little bit of a techno spiel for the folks on the phone is workflows are highly configurable. Think of it as like a Visio flow diagram or something like that. So what we could do in that case is like, instead of looking up vehicles that are assigned to the trapper, we could just have a drop down that does not filter by what's assigned, but it just filters to all vehicles that are available in the fleet. The trapper could then pick that and go forward. So this is one modification that would make sense for this one county, for example.
Understood. Okay, we'll do an internal huddle on that as well.
And
just
yeah,
wanted to see if it was capable.
It's definitely like that is in the realm. It's low effort to do something like that, right? We're just essentially taking out some validation and a validation filter.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
You're welcome. I see a hand from David.
Kevin, kind of running with that stop and start scenario in a day. Let's say somebody is working 2 routes in a day, and portions of 2 routes in a day, and so they begin the day on route 1, and they stop it when they complete it. Now they're going to go work on route 2, so they're going to restart. I assume that's going to generate a second daily trapping summary for the day?
Yeah, it is. Exactly. So when you stop work, you would be able to start work on your other route. The application supports multiple route assignments. But once you're started work, you're kind of assumed to be on one route until you stop work, switch your route, and then start your work again.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you could in fact work on 2 routes and have new start times, switch vehicles, even potentially, whatever. It's all the information is going to be new once you move to that new route.
Yeah. And when we demonstrated the daily trapping report yesterday, there was one report that we ran. So for one of our trappers, and it had 3 logs. So it had the date, and then in brackets, it said 3 logs. So that was a case where our testing trapper stopped work in a total of 3 times throughout the day for whatever reason. So our reports take that into account. Our app takes that into account. Should be completely good.
Well, if you started and stopped, but you were still working on the same route, so in Bonnie's scenario, it was just a breakdown, you wouldn't necessarily want to start a new log.
Well, yeah, there's multiple different edge cases, and in this iteration of the app, we definitely don't account for all those real world edge cases where things break down, or like all the real world edge cases that there could potentially be out there. We can definitely hone in on some of the edge cases that come up and work to provide a better automated experience around that.
Okay.
We can definitely work to do that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have quite a bit more time left. I'm happy to have more discussion or continue the demo, if or sorry, go back and look at some pieces of the demo if anyone would like. But otherwise, we can get the I'll get the recording out to the working group, and then they can disseminate this through the wider group as appropriate. Bonnie, is there anything else you'd like me to cover?
Well, I'm thinking because Dave and I had a discussion yesterday, and we have some exception cases. Things like if a trapper is at a site and notices that a McPhail trap is dried out, and there's some timing issues with that, or a trap has fallen out of a tree, they automatically have to service it before hanging it back in the tree, but we didn't want to disrupt the service frequency with CalTrap. But I think we need a little bit more internal discussion, like you said, to capture the edge cases, the exceptions. And how we would approach our own internal training for that, whether we would have workarounds that are outside of CalTrap for that.
Okay.
We also had a discussion about mobile home parks, which keeps coming up, but we will internally work out whether we would need multiple addresses for sites within the mobile home park. To display on one site as the site details of one site. So that's just some discussion, but not ready to finalize that yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, things look really good.
All right, fantastic. Well, what I'll do is I'll wrap it up for today. I'm going to just stop the recording right now. Daniel, Kim just asked how and where can we access the recordings. Bonnie, did you receive that URL?
I did, and both Qua and I had trouble downloading it. It said the video couldn't be found.
Okay, I'm gonna let me take a look. I'll work with you after this call. Actually, I'm going to stop the recording right now.